You have less than a month left to get your badges for Rose City Comic-Con, Portland's premier pop culture event. And they have an even more star-studded roster with indie film icon and White Lotus Season 3 star Parker Posey in attendance. And that's along with members of the Dungeons & Dragons web series, Critical Role, and Doctor Who stars Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper. This is all happening September 5th through the 7th, and you can go grab your badges now at rosecitycomiccon.com. That's rosecitycomiccon.com. The Clinton Street Theater, a Portland gem in my opinion, is having its third annual Hanabi Film Festival starting August 18th through the 31st. Named after the Japanese word for fireworks, the festival ranges from Japanese art house and cult classics to critically acclaimed animations to underseen gems from the 80s and 90s. And this year, they're featuring several restorations along with brand new features, some that have never made it to Portland or even the US. Festival passes and individual tickets can be purchased online at cstpdx.com. That's cstpdx.com. Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about the ongoing text thread among certain city council members that's been recently made public, the almost $4 million settlement against the Portland Police Bureau, and the house Portlanders can't seem to stop crashing into. Joining me on this week's Friday News Roundup are Willamette Week's City Hall reporter Sophie Peel and our very own senior producer Giulia Fiaoni. It's Friday, August 15th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about.
Hey, it's CityCast executive producer John Notarianni here. Before we get into today's conversation, I have a quick favor to ask. Here at CityCast, we're doing our annual listener survey, and we would really love it if you took a minute and took the survey for us. Even if you took it last year, we'd be so grateful if you took it again because we can't use last year's data anymore. So just go to citycast.fm/survey. You can fill it out. It'll only take about 7 minutes. We actually timed it. That's citycast.fm/survey. And when you do take it, you'll be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card and CityCast swag. Pretty good deal. Check it out, citycast.fm/survey. Thank you so much.
Welcome, everyone, to the Friday News Roundup. Sophie, Giulia, thank you for hanging out with me this morning.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hello, good morning. For those of you new to the show, today is the day we break down some of the biggest local stories of the week with some of the best and brightest journalists in town, like Sophie Peel here. But before we jump into the news, or our opening question, which I usually ask so our listeners can get to know our guests a little better, I just wanted to share some pretty amazing news, which is that we are hiring a part-time social media manager for the CityCast Portland team. We're looking for someone to help us build our presence online, reels, videos, that kind of thing, and someone who is passionate and knowledgeable about all things Portland. So if you or you know someone who has experience creating really good social content and wants to help make your neighbors more engaged and informed, please apply. The deadline for getting applications in is August 22nd, and we're going to link the job post with all the details in our show notes, so go check it out there.
So exciting.
Sophie, do you want to join? I don't think you work enough.
We're pitching you this job.
As a full-time City Hall reporter.
You also really don't want me doing your social media.
Is that a threat?
No, it's not a threat. It's I'm deeply incompetent at that sort of thing.
Me too, Sophie. I feel you.
You know what we should do is we should just have all of the reporters just do our social media for one day and see what they do.
That would actually be, I think that's a great idea. I would do that.
I think it'd be really funny.
It would be.
I would do that.
Okay. Well, now that I've shared that, today's opening question is actually just for one Sophie Peel, because both Giulia and I already answered it on Tuesday's episode, where we talked about what our perfect Portland summer evening would be. Our executive producer, John Notarianni, was also there, and so were some of our listeners in the form of audio bites. So here's the question for you, Sophie.
You did not tell me this was only going to be me.
Dance.
Surprise.
I would have tried harder.
What is your perfect Portland summer evening? Preferably in 3 acts. For example, you start here, you go there, you end the night over there, that kind of thing.
Okay. A long bike ride.
I'm sorry, clear your throat. Just really, here I go.
Okay, so I take a long bike ride around the waterfront.
Oh, nice.
And then I end at Duckworth Dock.
Yes.
And I jump in.
Oh.
I love that.
And then I get back out, and then I dry myself in the sun. and then I jump in again, get out, dry myself in the sun, and then I bike to tacos.
Which ones?
Tacos where?
I haven't decided where yet.
Oh.
But which are your favorite? I'm curious about your taco choices.
Well, my favorite tacos are like food carts.
yeah,
Oh,
of course.
totally.
Yeah.
I don't have a specific food cart.
I love that you're just like, I don't know the names. Tacos.
Just any taco food cart.
You're just like, I go to tacos. Why are you asking me so many questions?
See, I was thinking I would want to go to Eam as the last thing, but I feel like I can't come from a river in a bathing suit and go to Eam. So I would have had to pack more of an outfit. So that adds a whole other complicated element. So I went with tacos, but ideally it would be Eam if I could go in a bathing suit and a towel.
Sometimes it's hard to get in
Yeah.
on certain nights. Yeah.
Especially if you're in a towel.
You're like, don't worry, I'm not naked. That's what you want to tell everyone, by the way. Don't worry, I'm not naked. Just incredibly wet.
That's right.
That is a lovely summer evening. I feel like
Thank
that's
you.
perfect.
Yeah, especially all
Right?
the different times that you dip in the water and get out and roast in the
Yeah,
sun and
it's
dip in
two,
the water.
it has to be two.
I know exactly what you mean. Or else it's not worth ever getting in the water.
No, it's not.
This is great.
Yeah, last time I went, I jumped in and the current's like pretty strong. And so you're in there for like a minute and somehow you're like 15 feet away from the little ladder. And like everyone else was just like sunning themselves on the dock. And I was like, for like 2 minutes to get back to this stupid little ladder that's like 15 feet away from me.
Listener, you could not see that, but Sophie was just gesticulating wildly. She was just punching water at a certain point.
I've never seen somebody swim so hard.
Maybe that's why it took me so long. Like everyone was so placid and I was just like flailing in the water trying to get back to like, I wasn't moving.
no.
I swear to God,
That's
I was
the
not
scariest.
moving.
Well, thank you, Sophie, for your answers. On to the news of the week. And Sophie, you're going to talk through a couple of stories that follow the actions of a bloc that formed in the Portland City Council. You actually got into their threads, into their text messages, which is insane. Like, before you jump in, I just need to know, like, how did you even know this existed?
Yeah, I am so curious.
I had known that the Peacock chat had existed for like a couple months at this point when I requested them, just because like I was hearing it from City Hall staffers and like word gets around, right? You have counselors that are all sitting next to each other on the dais, like sort of, you can see each other's screens. And I'm not saying like I heard it necessarily from any of the counselors themselves, but like, you know, word gets around in City Hall. And so I think counselors probably saw it on other people's screens and, you know, staffers were aware of it. So it was kind of common knowledge between City Hall staff, or at least the legislative body's staff, thought there was a Peacock chat. And I also don't think Peacock was like necessarily like hiding the chat. Like I think they knew that other people were aware and they knew it was a public record. They're all very well trained on like what is a public record and what's not a public record. I think maybe they just thought people wouldn't find out, or maybe they didn't care if people found out. I still don't really understand. But I don't know, looking at the text, like I'm sure they weren't totally happy that I got like all 300 pages of those texts. Yeah, so I got those records about 3 weeks after I requested them. We decided not to publish all of it because like a lot of it is just without context. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And a lot of it is them just like scheduling Peacock meetings or just talking about random stuff or talking about not super personal stuff, but like, you know, things not really related to City Hall. But then there are parts of it that like were really meaty. And I would say like 3/4 of the messages happened during city council meetings. So I could sort of track when those comments were happening in real time. And they mostly happened during the really contentious budget sessions in May and June. And, you know, I sat on those texts for a couple of weeks just trying to figure out like, okay, what am I gleaning from this? What are the takeaways from this? You know, I think there's a lot of different ways I could have approached it, but I think in general, it showed that Peacock is as tightly coordinated as we thought they were. They are really engaging in like gamesmanship, which is what politics is, right? Like that's to their credit. Like they are organizing in a way that the other 6 members of council have not been able to do.
Yeah, and can you break down like what Peacock is and who's in Peacock? Because I'm sure there's a ton of people who are listening and they're just like,
What?
the terrible NBC streaming app
Yeah, so it's
that they're trying to make me pay for? No.
it's a family of 6 peacocks.
Okay.
And
You actually all voted for them. You don't know. But
no, so Peacock is the 6 sort of leftmost members of the city council. And they got to the name Peacock because Progressive Caucus progressive cock or P caucus.
Prog-cock would have worked just as good.
Prog-cock. And then it got shortened to Peacock, which is kind of cute. So they call themselves Peacock. I think in the beginning it was like, no, there's not really a progressive caucus. You know, we are not a split council on certain things. And I think the more like, especially after these text messages, like they're just kind of embracing it. Like they're like, yeah, we're Peacock. We have meetings. We move in lockstep. So it's, I'm going to go left to right on the dice so I don't miss anyone. So it's Candace Avalos, Jamie Dunphy, Samir Kanal, Angelita Murillo, Tiffany Koyama-Lane, and Mitch Green. And yeah, they don't necessarily move in lockstep on every single vote that comes in front of council or during the budget session. But on the ones that were like pretty meaty and kind of contentious, like the police to parks vote and a couple others on process issues, actually, they really move together in a coalition, which I find really interesting. But so on the more meaningful ones, they do move as a block. And in those texts, you can see that they really played the game during, especially the police to parks vote. I mean, they were planning for like the 2 hours leading up to that vote about how to basically take the floor from Council President Alana Purtle-Guinea. And then like Samir was going to take the floor through like some fun trick of Robert's Rules of Orders. And then he was going to punt it to Candace Avalos, who was going to put forward this amendment. Like it was very coordinated. And I, you know, there's also some other takeaways from those text messages. They talk a fair amount of shit about their colleagues, not each other, but like their colleagues that aren't part of the Peacock chat.
I didn't see that much in what you printed.
Maybe shit talking is the wrong word. There were a lot of snide little comments, right?
Yeah,
like
to me, all this played out like a game, like it was play by play, which I really appreciated, Sophie, especially since here at the show, we talk about these things so obsessively. And so to hear all the back end, you know, quote unquote shit talking or whatever, to me, it was more just like, oh, so-and-so has the ball. We got to get it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
It felt like strategy.
I didn't feel the meanness. The way I read it was just like, oh, that's just adrenaline talking, like trying to get the floor back.
I mean, there were some comments in there that I think were a little, I don't know if mean-spirited is the right word, but like, I think Peacock would, I'm sure, disagree that some of those comments were snide or rude. Like they were just saying, you know, they're sarcastic or whatever. And that's fair. I think also what has struck me a little bit is shit talking is part of human life. Like we all do it. And I think our elected officials are held to a higher standard of how they talk about their colleagues in writing.
I thought it was fascinating to see like moments where that very casual slang language was being used between them, because you just don't ever see that. Like at one point, Counselor Avalos was like, dead ass LMAO. And I was like, whoa, that's so wild to read.
Can I tell you my favorite exchange, though, was when they were talking about the police showing up to meetings, which I believe it was Angelita Murillo was just saying like, hey, 5 police officers. She was asking others.
Right. What the hell? Has this happened to you?
Yeah. During your town halls, are police officers coming, not explaining who they are, not interacting with anyone, just hanging out in the back and looking, as she wrote, menacing. And I was like, oh, I didn't know they had a formal discussion, you know, about this, like trying to figure out what was going on. And Mitch Green wrote, curious, haven't seen any police at my events. I can't quite put my finger on why that is. And he wrote quite as in white.
QWHITE.
And I was like, I love a good white joke. That's hilarious.
It was really good.
It's so funny because I think some readers thought that either me or Mitch Green made a typo with quite.
Oh, no.
Oh, they don't get
I don't think it was
no.
a lot, but like, well, it's funny. I had one of my coworkers read it and they had like auto-corrected it to quite. And I was like, no. That's the point.
Come on,
He's saying they didn't go to his town meetings because he's white. I just love good puns.
They're pretty funny. Yeah, so it's, you know, the whole thing has been really fascinating. I think, you know, if this had been a text thread between like 6 friends, this would all be so like such a nothing burger. And like we all talk shit over text messages with our friends. We're also not like elected officials. That's what makes this different. And I do think, you know, this council has really tried to say that they're not split 6-6. They don't sort of split along ideological lines. But I think this Peacock chat shows that like there are issues in which like these 6 people really move as a block. And it is a split council. Like they can say it's not as much as they want, but like on issues of like heft and weight, it is. I will also say, though, I feel like the first installment that I wrote made it clear that like they didn't know where they wanted the police money to go. Like if you read that thread, they were saying like, we've agreed to take $2 million from the police, but like we don't know where it's going to go yet. Here are some options.
Yeah. No, it was very clear that they all had ideas for it. It's not like they didn't know where they wanted to go. They were all saying this, or this.
Well, I think Angelita had said at one point, like, Steve will only vote for this if we send it to Parks, which makes it seem to me that, like, they didn't necessarily make this move just because they wanted to fill the Parks hole, right?
Oh, yeah. But I think the main thing that I got from it was just basically like, they're getting overfunded. There's so many other holes that we need to fill.
That's very true.
And that's what I'm saying is like there were so many holes to fill. There were literally like, which one? I don't think it was like, I think they were just very, very rightfully so being like, this section has too much money. All these other sections have too little money. Let's figure out where we go. And I think strategically was just like, hey, if we put it here, which we all need, we'll have a 7th vote. I don't know why, like, when I read this, all of this just was like, this is politics. This all just makes sense. Like, I don't see it as, like, my worldview wasn't shattered. If that
No, I mean, mine wasn't either. Like, people talk shit. They're just doing it in a more public way. I just think it was just a little misconstrued in public to where it was like, it was all for Parks, whereas, like, it shows that, like, it wasn't necessarily all going to go to Parks.
No, I hear you. So how do we know that the other 6 don't have a similar thread going, but they're maybe just a lot, I wouldn't say smarter, but sneakier?
Yeah.
I've asked everyone I possibly know, do the other 6 or a combination of the other 6 have a group thread? And I've been told not that I'm aware of. I've asked, like, the people themselves. And they've said,
oh, really?
Well, why would they say yeah?
I don't think they'd lie. I don't think they'd lie to me because I think they would know that I'd probably figure it out. But I've also asked members of Peacock, like, is there a thread that you know of? And they're like, no. So if anyone knows of a thread, let me know because I will request that now. But I don't.
I'm just curious because they also seem to be really well organized. Like there were moments where it appeared that they kind of had a thing going, like with certain amendments. Because the only reason I say this is because it was discussed in the thread. Like, hey, Zimmerman and EPG, they were talking and we know that they brought this up. There was talk that there had been meetings beforehand. And so I was like, well, it's clear they're coordinating as well. They may not have a cute name and it may not be as cohesive, but it was clear that EPG was just like, let's just get this done. Yeah. And was bringing in Zimmerman with like certain things,
Yeah, I think they're coordinating kind of in one-off ways and in sort of different small, maybe like groups of 2 or 3. But I really don't think they're coordinating effectively as a group of 6. And I think that shows because like they haven't been successful in really passing anything they want to pass. Like during the budget, like they didn't win any of like the close votes. They really didn't.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break here and we come back. I have some question about some lawsuits that were just settled by the city council. Quick question, what are you doing for Labor Day weekend? Or better yet, the weekend after when the crowds die down? Now picture this, you're sipping your morning coffee on a forested deck in Mount Hood or catching the last bit of golden hour on a quiet seaside beach. No stress, no noise, just the Oregon you love without the traffic. That's the Cascadia Getaway's difference. They're local, independent, and proudly owned not by some Silicon Valley fund or Seattle-based mega platform, just Oregonians hosting with heart and helping guests unplug the way they deserve. And hey, if you own a second home and want a property manager who actually cares about your home the way you do, they'd love to connect. They're always looking to partner with homeowners who want high standards, high bookings, and a hands-off experience. Whether you're booking your next escape or listing your home with folks who get it, head to CascadiaGetaways.com. That's CascadiaGetaways.com. Book a stay, list a home, support local. This Labor Day weekend, discover the scene, the sound, and the vibe of one of Portland's most beloved jazz festivals through a mix of indoor and outdoor concerts. The 12th annual Montevilla Jazz Festival, presented by Accelerator Design Studios, is hosting 25 concerts across East Portland's historic Montevilla neighborhood and Mount Tabor Park. It's their boldest and most musically diverse lineup yet, ranging from improv, blues, soul, to Latin jazz. Some events are free, but you're going to want a Jazz Adventure Pass to experience the full festival that's going from August 29th through the 31st. Get your Jazz Adventure Pass today at montevillajazz.org. That's montevillajazz.org. So, Sophie, another thing that I saw, by the way, if you want to read these texts, it's so interesting to see how our city politics is working. Please check out these 2 articles by Sophie. But there was one where I think Portland Police Chief Bob Day, they were talking about money. In your article, lawsuits were brought up about the Portland police, right? And I know I just read this article by Portland Mercury saying, hey, there's going to be a shift of culture because city council is demanding it. And so I'm curious if like this Portland Mercury article is at all hitting something that you're seeing in the change of Portland City Council. Like, is there accountability that's going on? And I will bring up why. It's like basically on August 7th, city councilors approved almost $4 million to resolve 2 of the most recent claims against the Portland Police Bureau, the killing of Emmanuel Clark Johnson, which was the bulk of that, and then the illegal detaining and arresting of a counter-protester at a Proud Boys rally. If you hadn't heard, Emmanuel Clark Johnson was mistaken for a robbery suspect and shot in the back by a police officer with an AR-15. Dispatchers told police the suspects were white men. Clark was black. But somehow they confused him as a suspect and not only killed him by shooting him in the back, the police officer who did so kept his job, didn't even face discipline. Portland's Police Review Board also narrowly disagreed that his actions didn't violate PPB policy. And it was later reported that this man, Clark, was left with life-threatening injuries for nearly 25 minutes before he was given medical aid. And so this is all on top of like Portland Police Chief Bob Day telling the city councilors, we are not the same police bureau as we were 3 years ago. And I'm just wondering, with this like really well-organized peacock, supposedly very progressive, are you seeing any of this accountability actually trickling through, or is it just a hope?
I don't think it's trickled through yet, but I think the pressure is really building on the police bureau. And I think these 6 counselors, the pressure that is like being exerted by them just like consistently. It's not just like when they're talking about a settlement like this in the killing of Manny Clark. It's not just during a budget session when they're talking about the police budget. Like they are bringing up police accountability like every juncture possible. And I think that is making a difference. I do. And I think the police bureau probably feels very nervous right now about like, oh shit, like this is a different type of leadership and they're really pressing us on accountability. And honestly, this Manny Clark thing was like, I think the most interesting thing and the most damning thing is that an internal affairs investigator basically said that this police officer, and I'm forgetting his name, went against city police use of force policy when he did this. So an internal investigator, which like normally internal investigators, and maybe this is too broad of a statement, but like they kind of capitulate a little bit to the Bureau's wishes, I think. But an internal affairs investigator said, no, he went against city policy. And then it was up to Chief Bob Day to determine whether or not he faced discipline. And Chief Bob Day said, no, given the circumstances, they were complicated, they were hard. I determined that he shouldn't face any discipline. So this guy stays employed at the police bureau. From what I can tell, he's in a desk job, like he's not actually out. But yeah, I think that pissed off counselors. I think that really pissed off counselors, and not just Peacock. I think in general, there was a lot of pissed off counselors on both Peacock, but also from the more moderate side that were like, what the hell? Like, how did you come to this determination? And they really questioned Chief Day about it. I mean, at length about like, how did you come to the conclusion after an internal affairs investigator said he broke city policy? How did you come to the conclusion that no, it was warranted? So I think the Mercury is right. I think, and I don't know what that will look like necessarily, but I think this council is really laser focused on increased accountability in the police bureau, both fiscally, but also in these like use of force cases.
I think something that really stood out to me in response to all that back and forth, Sophie, that you just described was Counselor Dunphy's quote in this article by the Mercury saying, quote, if policy was not violated, then policy needs to change, which just shows their intentionality, where it's like, oh, okay, if somehow the police chief came to the conclusion that whatever policy they value was not violated, then we're going to make it so next time this happens, it was.
I also think, I don't know, I was thinking about, let's say Manny Clark was the suspect in this robbery. I still don't understand how this police officer wouldn't have been disciplined. Because he was not armed. He was running away. Even if he had been the person who robbed whatever establishment, I still don't understand how that would have been justified use of force.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was none of those things. He was not armed. He was running away. He was the wrong race. He was not the suspect. Like,
Yeah.
it's like it's pretty mind-boggling.
And an AR-15.
Oh my God, yeah.
That is a huge weapon. And the fact that the police officer was like, oh, this is what they train us to de-escalate with a supposed armed suspect, which he was not.
Their reasoning was that the gun, because of the type of gun that it is, the shot is more precise. And if that's the case, the precision of the shot being where it was in the back, if that was the intention, then that's even worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I just bring that up because I hope that whatever's going on with the council, that they don't lose sight of these larger issues. And it does seem that this issue kind of united them in a way that the two articles that you wrote, it didn't appear that they were all united with certain, funding decisions for the police or whatever. But this lawsuit appeared to unite pretty much all of them.
Yeah, because it's so unambiguous.
Even Eric Zimmerman was like, hold up, I'm sorry, what now?
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, thank you, Sophie, for your reporting as usual. Again, you got to read these articles. They were so much fun to read. I'll be honest. It was a little gossipy in like a way that I was cracking up. But it's also just like good to know what's going on. But let's take a quick break here. When we come back, more headlines of the week.
Got any fun trips coming up? One thing you probably haven't put on your packing list is learning the language. But with Babbel, you can start talking in just a few weeks. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. And I also just persuaded my friend who's going to France this fall to learn French with Babbel, but that is another story. Babbel's extremely fun and intuitive. It's like having a private tutor in your pocket. Handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel's lessons are voiced by real native speakers and built with science-backed cognitive tools and interactive features to fit any learning style. I love a lot of the different Babbel features. The Babbel games for sentence building, Babbel speech recognition, which helps me get the pronunciation right. And now I'm really into Babbel's word of the day, which greets me on the homepage of the app. Every day, a new word revealed like a little surprise with a sentence to help contextualize it. It's like a daily treat for me. Studies from Yale, Michigan State, and other leading universities continue to prove that Babbel works. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. Look, I want you to learn another language. So I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
All right, Julia, what are you looking into this week?
So my segment comes from some reporting by the fabulous Zane Sparling at the Oregonian, and he's talking about how the owners of a rental property on Northeast 24th near Broadway are suing the city of Portland and Northwest Natural Gas Company for $1.2 million because the home sits at the end of a street with a really tight turn that's led to multiple cars crashing into the home, and in some cases directly into the main gas line, which is not good. So basically, the owners, Jason and Jessica Parks, who are from Washington, are claiming the city and Northwest Natural have failed to prevent these accidents from happening. So I looked into the home a little bit more, and it's right near the Steeplejack Brewery on Broadway, that like old converted church bar, which is not too far from the neighborhood I live in. And Zane mentions in the article that's a fourplex that's been given the nickname the Crash House by city officials because of literally just how many times people have crashed into it. But when I was poking around on Google Maps Street View, it was really tripping me out because when I was looking from one half of the street with my little Street View avatar, it showed a picture of the house taken in September of 2024, and the property looks beautiful, there's not really any damage. And then as you move the Street View avatar forward, it shows an updated photo from April of 2025, and the place is unrecognizable. There's a broken chain link fence around it, the whole front is boarded up. It looks like kind of an abandoned drug house, which just shows how much these accidents have taken a toll on the property. And I did notice one detail between the two different photos. One has an added bright yellow arrow street sign in the newer version, and the older version didn't have that. So it shows like the progress of something being done, but clearly not enough. But anyway, before I get into how the cross street is laid out, have y'all seen this house before? Did you know about it before this article came out?
I didn't know the crashing, but I've seen the house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm curious about the lawsuit. Like, I'm very curious to know what their claim against Northwest Natural is, because it really seems more like a street design issue almost, and like the drivers that crashed into them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit more about the intersection. It's really fucked up. Basically, Weidler runs perpendicular to Northeast 24th, just south of Broadway, and it comes to this point where the driver literally just has to make like a 90-degree turn without stopping. And it feels like it comes out of nowhere. I've been in this area driving, and every time I'm always like, oh, whoa, definitely have to slow down, even though there's no indication. And it just catches people off guard. So one of the most recent examples of the crash was last year on Christmas Eve. And basically that time the driver drove right into the gas main line on the property, which made everything catch on fire during the accident. And the driver fled the scene before anyone arrived. And like, thankfully, there was only one tenant and a cat living inside at the time, so nobody was hurt by the accident. But basically from this, the lawsuit is claiming, quote, that the city and Northwest Natural are failing to improve the roadway by installing sturdier bollards, and that the couple lost $50,000 in retail income and spent $838,000 on reconstruction, and that they are seeking further compensation for stress and loss of resale value. And there wasn't a lot of details on how the gas company is looped into that, but basically they have been making complaints to both the city and the gas company to at least try to remedy the situation, possibly moving the gas line, whatever could have avoided that level of damage. And they're claiming they weren't getting the response that was necessary to avoid the incidents that have happened. But it really does sound like any sort of action on this from the city was just a little too late, because currently they just launched a repaving and safety improvement project earlier this year, which does address a few things. They're going to reduce the number of lanes on Northwest Weidler from 2 to 1. They're adding crosswalks. They're lowering the speed limit to 25 miles per hour. They're placing boulders and reflective signs on the property, and they're adding parking in the hopes that like a narrower street will cause people to slow down. But all in, the project is projected to cost around $75,000, and that doesn't even include the repaving, which if the lawsuit is successful, that's a lot of money for the city to spend on just reconciling the issues with one home.
I think it's just so interesting, like how expensive infrastructure is. Or like moving a gas line, like you don't think of it as being that expensive or invasive, but like you have to like unearth things and you have to stop traffic. And like it's such a bummer to me how expensive these infrastructure projects are, and it's like inevitable. It's not like the city's doing anything wrong.
Yeah, it makes sense why it wasn't a priority until now. Like it really had to get that bad for it to feel like it was the right budget choice.
So I had a friend who lived at El Capitan. That's the apartment building right next to it. And so I've driven and I've been in that area for almost 20 years, like just driving.
Yeah.
And in my head, I always thought it had those, you know, those like cement Lego blocks that block, because I knew that it was a weird lane to turn, but I never felt, I don't know why, because I can see it. You know, as you're driving, you can kind of see it. So when I'm hearing that people are crashing in, I'm like, look, I get, but it's really not that fucking hard because there's a house there and you could see it with your eyes and you know that you can't run into it. But what I'm hearing is just like people are going too fast.
Yeah,
you know?
I know what you mean about like the standing and looking at it and being like, wait, how did you not see that this was here? Because growing up, I worked at Baskin Robbins right off of Route 66 in Glendora, California. And I had a job there when I was like 16, 17 years old, working through the summer. And this Baskin Robbins had a notorious reputation for being the Baskin Robbins that everybody drove their cars through accidentally. And I remember when I was a kid, like thinking fondly about those memories because I would go there with my family and there would be a car in the lobby of this Baskin Robbins. And they, like the people working there would be handing out full pints of ice cream, being like, yeah, just take it for free. It's going to melt. Best day ever when you're a kid. Flash forward and you're working there, so much anxiety, and thinking to myself, like, how do people do this? Like, how do you fully turn and run straight into an ice cream parlor in broad daylight? But sometimes it's just like, I don't know, not everybody drives the same. And if you don't have like flashing signs telling you what to do, then like this can be the outcome.
The truth about city infrastructure is you have to idiot-proof everything.
Yes, exactly.
It's true. Like, will a person who is distracted be able to avoid this? You have to think about all these things. So I totally get why it is up to the city to make this safer. But I got to tell you, though, as a person with 2 eyes and who's been driving, it's still like, really? You keep driving into this house? How?
Yeah.
Well, Julia, thank you for digging into that. I really appreciate you both hanging out with me this morning, going through some headlines of the week. Before we head out, I just wanted to give a couple of shout outs. If you become a member or CityCast Portland neighbor, you are able to throw in some shout outs for us to share with everyone. And this was from our neighbor, Brooke W. They wrote, Curious Comedy Club on MLK changed my life taking improv classes there. This engineer learned more about myself than how to talk in front of people. The teachers are amazing. They are so caring and inclusive. Plus, don't worry if you don't think you are funny. They teach you how to bring it out. Aw, Julie, aren't you like the world's biggest improv fan?
I guess it's embarrassing to say that improv comedy is my favorite kind of comedy. I'm learning this. I didn't realize that it was a thing, but here I am.
You want to read the next one?
Yeah, I have one here from neighbor Will H. And they said, some days Oregonians of all ages will enjoy walking or rolling all the way to the coast on a beautiful rail trail. Shout out to the Salmonberry Trail Foundation and their amazing work making this vision a reality. I'm sorry, they were just so awesome and I couldn't make it 20 words, which is really sweet, talking about how the shout out was long.
Oh, that's so funny because like no one has at all made it to 20 words. I feel like everyone's is always spilling over. And I didn't even know we were supposed to cut off 20 words, honestly.
I know. I'm like, wow, what a considerate neighbor, Will. Thank you.
And you too can join our membership, become a CityCast Portland neighbor by heading over to membership.citycast.fm. We also have member-only events. When we get any free tickets, we give them to our members.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some pretty cool perks.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you, Sophie and Julia. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I hope everyone listening has a wonderful weekend. Everyone, please go to the Mount Tabor Soapbox Derby. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone forgets about it, and then I tell them, and then they get all mad that they weren't there. And it's this weekend. It's this Saturday. It's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is so cool.
Yeah, see you there.
Okay, you going?
I'm going to try. I'm free this weekend.
You're like, unless there's some improv, then I have to go yell out a state and a color. So... That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you all so much for listening. Our podcast production team this week was John Notariani, Giulia Fiaoni, Selena C.A. Reynolds, and myself. Our Hey Portland newsletter editors were Rachel Monahan and Adrian Gonzalez. Our host is me, Claudia Meza. Original music by Jenny Conley and Stephen Drizos. Additional music by All the Kimonos, as well as Sarah the Instrumentalist, Timothy Infinite, and Gregory David, courtesy of Epidemic Sound. We'll be back Monday morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.